a distant academy orbiting the gas giant Viridian 6. Students from dozens of species trained in combat reflexes. The academy hung in the silent dark like a silver seed, tethered to nothing but gravity and purpose. Inside its curved halls, young warriors learned to move faster than thought, to strike before sound, to survive what no ordinary being could. Among them sat Leela, a quiet human girl with silver-threaded eyes and no known origin. She wore the standard gray training suit like everyone else. But she moved differently, slower when still, faster when needed, as if time bent slightly around her. The instructors assumed she was baseline, unmodified, unenhanced, ordinary. Humans were common in the outer colonies, often used as scouts or medics, rarely as frontline fighters. Their biology was fragile, their reaction time sluggish compared to the scaled Virelians or the multi-limbed Zinthari. Lila never corrected them. She listened, obeyed, and watched. She had no file beyond a basic intake form that listed her as found on a derelict freighter near the Kuiper Belt. Age unknown. Language unknown. Memory blank. The academy took her in as a charity case, a curiosity. No one expected her to last the first term, but she did. Not with brute strength or tactical brilliance, but with something quieter, something that made the sensors flicker when she passed. During drills, she never missed a target. During evasion sims, she always found the blind spot. Once, during a zero-gravity sparring match, she disarmed a 6-armed Krell warrior before he even registered her movement. The match was reset. The footage was deleted. The instructors whispered, but said nothing aloud. Then came Reflex Week. Every cycle, the academy ran a standardized test to measure neural response speed. Students stood in a white chamber, barefoot on conductive plates. A Class 3 neural laser would fire from a random vector at random intervals. The goal was not to dodge. It was impossible to dodge a beam moving at near light speed, but to react within 5 milliseconds. Any response faster than that triggered a failsafe, as it suggested illegal neural augmentation. Organic beings simply could not process stimuli that quickly, or so the textbooks claimed. The chamber filled with students that morning. The air hummed with tension and ozone. First up was Torin, a Virelian with obsidian scales and reflexes honed by desert survival. The laser fired. His hand twitched. The system logged 4.8 milliseconds. Impressive, but within bounds. Next was Myra, a Zinthari with compound eyes that saw in ultraviolet. She flinched before the beam even left the emitter. 4.3 milliseconds. The crowd murmured. Then came Jax, a cyber-augmented mercenary from the Rim worlds. His mechanical eye glowed red. The laser fired. He didn't move. The system read 0.0, immediate disqualification. His implants had predicted the shot. Cheating. Then it was Lila's turn. She stepped into the center of the chamber without hesitation. Her bare feet made no sound on the metal floor. The overhead lights dimmed. The instructor, a stern Draken with ridged brows, activated the sequence. Silence stretched. Students held their breath. The laser fired. A thin blue-white streak aimed at the dummy behind her. But Lila's hand snapped out. Not a flinch. Not a twitch. A full, deliberate motion, palm open, fingers spread, as if she were catching a falling leaf. And somehow, impossibly, the beam stopped in her grip. Not deflected, not absorbed, stopped. The air crackled. Blue energy spiraled around her fingers like trapped lightning. The chamber alarms shrieked. Red lights pulsed. The simulation grid collapsed in a cascade of sparks. The dummy behind her remained untouched. The laser had never reached it. The room fell into stunned silence. The Drakon instructor stared at his console, then at Lila, then back at the console. All readings were corrupted. The system reported a paradox. The beam had been intercepted before emission. That was not just impossible, it violated causality. Another instructor rushed in, scanning Leela with a biosensor. No implants. No foreign tech. No genetic markers beyond standard human baseline. Yet her neural activity during the event had spiked to levels seen only in theoretical models of post-singularity beings. Lila lowered her hand slowly. The energy vanished. She looked at her palm. No burn, no mark. Just skin, pale and unbroken. She said nothing. She never did unless spoken to. The instructors conferred in hushed tones. The students backed away, eyes wide. Some crossed ritual signs. Others recorded everything on hidden lenses. Lila walked out of the chamber as calmly as she had entered, her footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. That night, The Academy's upper observation deck lay empty, except for one figure cloaked in deep violet. Her height was unnatural, taller than any human, slender like a blade. Pointed ears peeked through the hood, twitching slightly at every distant hum of the station. Her eyes, the color of molten amber, watched the chamber below through reinforced glass. She had seen the test. She had seen the impossible. Beside her, curled in the shadows near the bulkhead, rested a creature the size of a ground car. Its scales shimmered like cooled lava, shifting between black and crimson with each slow breath. Smoke curled from its nostrils, not from heat but from containment. Its fire held in check by will alone. Its eyes, slitted and ancient, followed Lila's path through the corridors below. It did not growl. It did not stir. It simply watched as if recognizing something long lost. The cloaked woman's name was Ilara. She was the last of the Starlight Elves, a race erased from galactic records after the Void Wars 3 centuries ago. They had been scholars, warriors, and weavers of spacetime, beings who spoke to stars and shaped gravity with song. The Council had declared them extinct, their cities reduced to dust, their libraries burned in orbital strikes. But Ilara survived, hidden, waiting. And she had come to this academy for one reason only. Rumors had reached her through the old networks, whispers carried on dead comms and encrypted star charts. A human girl. No origin, no past. But she moved like the wind before the storm. She saw what others could not. And now she had caught a laser mid-air. Ilara knew what that meant. Only one kind of being could do that. Those touched by the resonance, the ancient force that flowed through elven blood and dragonfire alike. The Council had tried to purge it from the galaxy. They had failed. Lila was not human. Not entirely. Ilara turned to her companion. "Kyle," she murmured, voice like wind through crystal. The dragon exhaled a slow plume of smoke. His tail uncurled slightly. He understood. The girl was the key. The weapon buried beneath Earth's crust, the one the elves had hidden before their fall, was beginning to wake. And it needed a hand that could wield it without shattering. Down below, Lila entered her quarters. The door sealed behind her. She sat on the edge of her cot and stared at her hands. For the first time, a memory flickered. Not clear, but warm. A voice singing, soft, sad, in a language with no words, only feeling. She closed her eyes. The silver threads in her irises glowed faintly, then faded. Outside, the gas giant Viridian 6 swirled in silent majesty, its storms older than civilizations. And in the dark between stars, something began to stir. The next morning, the Academy buzzed with uneasy silence. No one spoke of Lila's test directly, but eyes followed her in the halls and training partners avoided sparring with her. Instructors reran system diagnostics, blaming glitches and calibration errors. Yet deep in the command wing, high-level alerts had been sent to the Galactic Council. A human had broken physics. That could not be ignored. Lila felt the shift in the air. She kept to herself, eating alone, walking the outer corridors where few dared go. She did not understand what had happened in the chamber, only that something inside her had answered the beam like an old friend. Her dreams had changed too, now filled with tall spires of white stone, forests that glowed from within, and a woman with eyes like hers, silver and sad. That evening, she wandered into the garden dome. It was the only place on the station that felt alive. Bioluminescent vines climbed the curved walls, pulsing with soft blue light. Moss-covered stones lined winding paths, and a small stream trickled over smooth rocks, recycled water made to mimic Earth's rivers. Lila sat on a bench near the center, watching the vines breathe in the artificial dusk. She did not hear footsteps, but she felt the presence. A figure emerged from the shadows near the fern grove, tall, cloaked in violet, with pointed ears and eyes that held fire and frost at once. Lila did not move. She had seen her before on the observation deck, watching. Now she stood just 3 paces away, silent, studying. The woman did not speak at first. Instead, she reached into her cloak and placed a small object on the stone table between them. It was a shard of obsidian, smooth and cold, no larger than a palm. It seemed ordinary, but the light bent strangely around it as if space itself hesitated near its surface. Lila looked from the shard to the woman. "Who are you?" she asked, voice quiet but steady. "Ilara," the woman replied. Her voice was low, melodic, like wind through ancient trees. "And you are more than they think." Lila did not answer. She glanced at the obsidian again. Something pulled at her, a quiet hum in her bones. Against her better judgment, she reached out and touched it. The world dissolved. Suddenly, she stood in a city of impossible beauty. Towers of white crystal spiraling into a violet sky, bridges of light connecting floating islands, rivers of liquid starlight flowing through streets paved with singing stone. Beings moved through the city, tall and graceful with silver hair and eyes that held galaxies. They were not human. They were something older, something purer. Then fire fell from the sky. Ships black as void tore through the atmosphere, raining destruction. The towers shattered. The rivers boiled. The singing stones went silent. Lila saw Alara then, younger, bleeding, clutching a child to her chest as she ran through collapsing alleys. Behind her, a dragon the size of a mountain roared, its wings shielding a temple as beams of annihilation struck its scales. The vision shifted. Deep beneath a blue-green planet, Earth, lay a chamber of black metal and glowing runes. At its center floated a sphere of pulsing light, humming with power that could unmake stars. A voice echoed through the chamber, not in words but in feeling. It waited. It remembered. It called. Lila gasped and pulled her hand back. The garden dome returned. Her heart pounded. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Alara watched her, expression unreadable. "What was that?" Lila whispered. "Memory," Alara said. "Yours and mine. The elves built that city. We shaped time and light with our will, but the council feared us. They called us dangerous. They erased us." Lila shook her head. "I am human. I have no memory of any of this. You were made," Alara said gently, "not born. Engineered in secret after the fall. They took elven essence, the resonance, and wove it into human form. They hoped to hide it in plain sight, where the council would never look. A guardian, hidden in flesh they deemed weak." Lila stared at her hands again. "Why don't I remember?" "The process required silence," Alara explained. "Your mind was sealed until the resonance awoke. Catching that beam, it broke the lock. Now the memories return in pieces." As if on cue, another fragment surfaced. A cold room. White walls. A woman in a lab coat humming a lullaby in that same wordless language. Her face was blurred, but her hands were gentle. She placed a hand on Lila's forehead and whispered, "Sleep, little star. Wake when the sky burns." Lila's breath hitched. "Who was she?" "My sister," Alara said, voice thick with grief. "She stayed behind when the others fled. She gave her life to finish you, to make sure the weapon beneath Earth would have a hand to wield it." "Weapon?" Lila asked. "The heart of the first dragon," Alara said. "Forged before time, buried when the council turned on us. It responds only to those who carry the resonance. But it is not a tool of war, it is a key. It can restore what was lost, or end everything if used in rage." Before Lila could respond, a low rumble shook the dome. Not from the station's engines, from outside. Both women turned toward the transparent wall. In the void beyond, a shape moved. Massive scaled wings folded like storm clouds. Kale, the dragon, hovered silently beside the academy, his amber eyes fixed on Lila. "He remembers you too," Alara said. "Dragons do not forget blood." Lila felt no fear, only a strange sense of belonging, as if she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. "What do you want from me?" "Not want," Alara said. "Need. The council has detected the resonance awakening. They will come. Not to question, not to study, to erase. They cannot allow another elf, even one hidden in human skin, to exist." "Then what do we do?" Lila asked. "We prepare," Alara said. "You must go to Earth. To the chamber. The heart will know you. And when the council comes, you will not stand alone." Kale landed on the station's outer platform with surprising grace. The metal groaned but held. He lowered his head toward the dome, smoke curling from his nostrils. Alara placed a hand on Lila's shoulder. "You are not human. Not entirely. But you are not just elf either. You are something new. And that is why you might succeed where we failed." Lila looked at the dragon, then at Alara, then at her own hands, still trembling, but stronger now. The silver in her eyes glowed faintly. Steady this time. She nodded. That night, while the academy slept, Alara led Lila through hidden passages known only to the old races. They reached a small shuttle docked in a maintenance bay, cloaked in null signature tech. Inside, the controls glowed with elven script, soft flowing lines that pulsed in time with Lila's heartbeat. As they boarded, alarms blared across the station. Red lights flashed. The council had arrived early. They sensed the memory transfer, Ilara said, strapping into the pilot seat. Hold on. The shuttle lifted off just as 3 dreadnoughts emerged from warp, sleek and black, their hulls absorbing light. Beams lanced out, striking the Academy shields. The station rocked. But Ilara did not look back. She engaged the drive and the stars stretched into lines. Lila watched through the viewport as Viridian 6 shrank behind them. She thought of the test chamber, the laser, the silence that followed. She had thought she was nothing. Now she knew she was everything they feared. And for the first time, she did not feel afraid. She felt ready. The shuttle tore through the void, its hull humming with ancient elven tech that bent space without sound. Outside, the stars blurred into streaks of silver. Inside, silence hung thick between Lila and Ilara. The alarms from the Academy still echoed in Lila's mind, but her body felt calm, as if something deep within had finally woken up and taken control. Ilara piloted with steady hands, her amber eyes fixed on the star charts unfolding in the air before her. Kale followed behind, his massive form cloaked in a shimmering field that made him nearly invisible to scanners. He moved like a shadow between worlds, wings folded tight, fire held in check. They will track us, Ilara said after a long while. The Council's ships carry resonance hunters, machines built to sniff out elven energy like bloodhounds. Then why not hide? Lila asked. Because the heart beneath Earth is already waking, Ilara replied. It knows you are coming, and once it stirs, every hunter in the galaxy will feel it. Hiding is no longer an option. Lila looked down at her hands again. They no longer felt like just hands. They felt like keys, like weapons, like something waiting to be used. Memories kept surfacing. Fragments of songs, of rituals, of a language that had no words but carried entire worlds in its tone. She remembered the woman in the lab, her sister, humming that lullaby as she sealed Lila's mind. She remembered cold metal, soft light, and the promise of a sky that would one day burn. Why did they make me? Lila asked softly. Because we lost everything, Ilara said. The elves were not warriors by nature. We built, we healed, we sang the stars into alignment, but when the Council turned on us, we had no army, no weapons they could not dismantle. So we made one last hope. A being who could walk among humans unnoticed, who could survive their fragility, yet carry our essence in silence. You are not a weapon, Lila. You are a bridge. The shuttle dropped out of warp near the edge of the Sol system. Earth hung ahead, blue and green wrapped in clouds. It looked peaceful, innocent. Nothing like the world that held a buried god beneath its crust. As they approached, Kyle slowed, his massive head tilting as if listening. He hears it, Ilara said. The heart. It calls to him. Lila felt it too. A low hum in her chest matching the rhythm of her pulse. The closer they got, the stronger it grew. It was not sound. It was presence. Like standing near a mountain that had watched civilizations rise and fall without blinking. They landed in a remote desert, far from cities and satellites. The sand stretched for miles, red and empty under a pale sun. Ilara led Lila to a stone circle half buried in the dunes. The rocks were covered in faded runes that glowed faintly when Lila stepped inside. This is a gate, Ilara said, one of the last. It will take us down. Lila placed her palm on the central stone. Warmth spread through her arm. The ground trembled, sand swirled upward, defying gravity as a spiral staircase of black metal rose from the earth. The air grew cold. The hum deepened. They descended for what felt like hours. The walls were smooth, seamless, etched with patterns that shifted when not looked at directly. Kale could not fit, so he coiled above, guarding the entrance, his eyes scanning the horizon. At the bottom, they stood before a massive door. It had no handle, no lock, only a single handprint carved into its surface, human-sized but glowing with silver light. Lila stepped forward. She pressed her hand into the print. The door opened without sound. Inside lay a chamber vast enough to hold a city. The ceiling vanished into darkness. The floor was a mosaic of stars, each tile pulsing with soft light. At the center floated the heart, a sphere of pure energy, no larger than a person, swirling with colors that had no name. It pulsed slowly like a sleeping mind. As Lila approached, the heart brightened. Threads of light reached out, wrapping gently around her arms, her waist, her face. Visions flooded her again. Not memories this time, but possibilities. She saw herself standing on a battlefield, light pouring from her hands. She saw cities rebuilt, Stars reignited, dragons soaring through skies free of war. She also saw fire, ruin, silence. It shows you the weight, Alara said from behind. Not just the power. Lila reached out. Her fingers touched the surface of the heart. Pain exploded through her. Not physical, but deeper, like her soul was being stretched across time. She gasped but did not pull away. The heart recognized her. It remembered her blood. It accepted her, and then it synced. Light erupted from the chamber, shooting up through the shaft, piercing the desert sky like a beacon. Across the galaxy, dormant systems flickered. Old ruins hummed. Dragons hidden in asteroid caves opened their eyes. The Council's hunters screamed in their cages, overwhelmed by the signal. On the surface, Kale roared, a sound that shook the planet's crust. Back in orbit, the first Council dreadnought dropped out of warp. Then another. Then 10 more. They formed a ring around Earth, weapons charging, shields raised. They would not let this happen again. Alara grabbed Lila's arm. They are here. Faster than I thought. Lila turned from the heart, her eyes now fully silver, glowing like twin moons. What do? We fight, Alara said, drawing a bow from her back, a weapon made of solidified starlight. But not alone. As if summoned, the ground trembled again. Not from the heart, from below. Massive shapes stirred in the planet's mantle. Ancient beings sleeping for centuries began to rise. Not machines. Not ghosts. Dragons. Real, living, furious dragons, their scales forged in the planet's core, their fire older than language. They were never gone, Alara said, just waiting. For you. Above, the Council opened fire. Beams of annihilation rained down on the desert. But Kyle leapt into the sky, wings spreading wide, and met them head-on. His roar split the atmosphere. Fire erupted from his maw. Not ordinary flame, but white-hot resonance capable of melting reality itself. Lila ran back up the stairs, Alara beside her. When they emerged, the sky was already burning. Kale danced between dreadnoughts, tearing through hulls with claws that could shred neutronium. But more ships kept coming. Lila looked at her hands. They no longer trembled. They knew what to do. She turned to the heart's energy still coiled inside her. She pulled it forward. Light erupted from her skin, forming a shield over the desert. The Council's beams shattered against it like glass. You are ready, Alara said, pride in her voice. Lila nodded. She was not the girl who caught a laser in class anymore. She was something else, something the galaxy had forgotten, and she would remind them. The sky burned with the fire of war. Council dreadnoughts circled Earth like vultures, their black hulls swallowing starlight. Beams of annihilation rained down, each one capable of leveling cities. But Lila stood in the center of the desert, arms raised, light pouring from her skin like liquid sun. The shield she had woven from the heart's energy held firm, rippling with every impact but never breaking. Kale soared above, a storm-given form. His wings beat once and shockwaves shattered nearby ships. His fire, white and silent, melted armor into vapor. Where he flew, the Council's formations unraveled. Yet for every ship he destroyed, 2 more took its place. They had come prepared. They would not leave until Earth was glass. Alara stood beside Lila, bow drawn, eyes scanning the chaos. They are not just attacking, she said. They are testing, seeing how much power you truly wield. Lila felt it too. The Council was probing her limits, firing in patterns designed to overload her shield to force her to expend energy. They knew she was new to this. Untested, raw, but they did not know what else slept beneath the sand. Deep in the planet's crust, the ancient dragons stirred fully now, not just 1 or 2, dozens, then hundreds. Their roars echoed through the mantle, shaking continents. Mountains cracked open, oceans boiled. From fissures across the globe, massive shapes emerged, scales black as night, eyes burning with old rage. These were not pets or mounts. They were spirits of war, bound to the planet since the first elves sang the world into being. One by one, they took to the sky. The Council's fleet faltered, their sensors overloaded. Their commanders shouted orders that made no sense. Dragons were extinct. That was doctrine, fact, law. Yet here they were, real and furious, tearing through hulls with claws that remembered the void wars. Lila lowered her arms slightly. The shield thinned but held. She turned to Alara. I have to go deeper. Alara nodded. The heart is not just a weapon. It is a key. It can awaken the network, the old elven beacons hidden across the galaxy. but only if you sink fully. What happens if I do? Lila asked. You might not come back, Alara said plainly. The resonance is not kind to half-formed minds. It demands all or nothing. Lila looked at the sky, at Kale fighting alone against impossible odds, at the dragons rising from the earth like vengeance given scale and fire. She thought of the woman who sang to her in the lab, of the city of crystal and light, of the silence that followed the council's purge. She had no choice. She ran back to the stone circle. The staircase opened for her without touch. This time the descent felt different, faster, deeper, as if the planet itself was pulling her down. The walls pulsed with her heartbeat. The air grew thick with energy. In the chamber, the heart floated brighter than before, reacting to her presence like a child seeing its mother. Lila did not hesitate. She stepped into it. Pain came first, sharp, endless, tearing through every cell. Then came knowledge. Not words, but understanding. She saw the elves not as a race, but as a song. Each life a note, each death a silence. The council had tried to erase the melody, but the music lived on, in dragons, in earth, in her. She saw the beacons, scattered across dead systems, buried in moons, hidden in asteroid belts, each one a seed, each one waiting for the right frequency to bloom. And she was that frequency. Her body dissolved into light, her mind stretched across space. She reached out, not with hands but with will, and touched the nearest beacon buried in the rings of Saturn. It flared to life, sending a pulse through the solar system, then another, near Alpha Centauri, then another in the ruins of the elven homeworld. The council ships shuddered, their systems glitched, their weapons misfired. The resonance was not just energy, it was truth, and truth unraveled lies. Above, Kale felt the change. He roared again, but this time the sound carried power. His fire turned gold. Where it struck, dreadnoughts did not just explode, they unraveled, their atoms remembering they were once stardust. Alara watched from the surface, tears in her eyes. She had hoped for this, dreamed of it, but never believed she would live to see it. Lila reappeared in the chamber, whole but changed. Her silver eyes now held galaxies. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. She walked back up the stairs, each step echoing like a drumbeat. When she emerged, the battle had shifted. The dragons fought with renewed fury, guided by an unseen hand. The council's fleet was retreating, but not fast enough. Lila raised her hands again. This time she did not make a shield. She made a call. From the heart, from the beacons, from every hidden place the elves had left behind, energy surged toward her. It coalesced above the desert into a single point of light, brighter than a star, quieter than a breath. Then it split. Beams of pure resonance shot out, not to destroy, but to awaken. They struck the council ships, not melting metal, but unraveling their control systems, their weapons, their lies. Pilots screamed as their minds were flooded with memories they never lived, of elven cities, of songs, of peace before the purge. The dreadnoughts went dark. One by one they drifted, powerless. The largest ship, the command vessel, tried to flee. But Kale intercepted it. He did not burn it. He landed on its hull, claws digging deep, and roared directly into its bridge. The sound carried the weight of centuries. The ship's commander, a high counselor with cold eyes and a colder heart, clutched his head as visions of his own crimes flooded his mind. He saw the cities he ordered erased, the children he called acceptable losses, the truth he buried under laws and lies. He wept. Lila walked toward the ship, floating now, her feet no longer touching sand. She looked up at the drifting hulk and spoke one word. Not in human, not in elven, in the language of the heart. Remember. The ship's lights died completely, then slowly it turned and limped away, followed by the rest of the broken fleet. Silence fell over the desert. The dragons landed, their massive forms curling around the stone circle like guardians. Kale returned to Lila's side, lowering his head so she could rest her palm on his snout. His fire was calm now. Satisfied. Alara approached, bow lowered. You did not kill them, she said. Killing would not end the war, Lila replied. Only truth can. She looked at her hands again. They still glowed, but softly now. The resonance was part of her. Not a weapon, not a curse, a promise, and the galaxy had just heard it. The silence after the battle was deeper than space itself. No alarms, no engines, no screams. Only the slow breath of the planet and the soft hum of the heart beneath the sand. The Council's fleet had vanished into the dark, not in triumph, but in shame. Their ships drifted like ghosts, their crews haunted by memories they never lived but could not forget. Lila stood at the edge of the desert, bare feet in the warm sand, eyes fixed on the horizon. The silver in her irises no longer glowed like fire, but pulsed gently like distant stars. She felt different, not just stronger, but whole. The fragments of her past had settled into place, not as wounds, but as roots. She knew who she was now. Not human, not elf. Something new. Something needed. Ilara joined her, cloak tattered from battle, but posture unbent. Kale lay nearby, massive head resting on his foreclaws, smoke curling lazily from his nostrils. The other dragons had returned to the earth, slipping back into the mantle as quietly as they had risen. Their work was done for now. They will not forget what happened here, Ilara said. But they will not speak of it either. The Council fears truth more than war. Lila nodded. She had seen it in the High Counselor's eyes. The moment he understood, not just that he was wrong, but that his entire order was built on erasure, on fear, on the lie that strength must destroy what it does not understand. What now? Lila asked. Now we rebuild, Ilara said. Not cities, not armies, trust. She pointed to the sky. Far above, near the edge of the atmosphere, a single beacon pulsed. Small, steady, alive. It was the first of many. Across the galaxy, others would follow. The network was waking, and with it the old paths between worlds. Lila turned to the stone circle behind them. The entrance to the chamber still glowed faintly. The heart had quieted, but it was not sleeping. It was listening, waiting, ready. The war is not over, Lila said softly. No, Ilara agreed. It has only just remembered its name. They stayed in the desert for 3 days. No one came. No ship scanned the area. The world above pretended nothing had happened, but below in hidden places change had already begun. Scattered human colonies reported strange signals in dead zones. Ancient ruins on Mars hummed at night. Children on distant moons drew pictures of silver-eyed women and dragons before they could speak. Lila knew the heart was reaching out, calling to those who could hear. Not with force, but with invitation. On the 4th morning, she stood at the edge of the dunes watching the sun rise. Kale rose with her, stretching his wings wide, casting a shadow that covered half the valley. Ilara approached with a small pack slung over her shoulder. Where to first? Lila asked. Proxima, Ilara said. There is a beacon there buried under ice. It has been silent for 300 years. It will know your voice. Lila looked back at Earth one last time. It was still beautiful, still wounded, still worth saving. She thought of the academy, of the test chamber, of the moment she caught the laser and broke the system. That had not been the beginning. It had been the spark. Now the fire burned. She climbed onto Kale's back, settling between his shoulder blades where the scales were smoothest. Ilara followed, sitting just behind her. The dragon did not need a command. He leapt into the sky, wings beating once, twice, and then they were gone, streaking toward the stars like a promise kept. As they left orbit, Lila looked down at the blue-green world shrinking below. She placed a hand on Kale's neck and sent a pulse of resonance through him. Not a command, a thanks. He rumbled in reply, a sound like distant thunder. Far away in the ruins of an old elven outpost near the Orion Arm, a stone pillar cracked open. Light spilled out. Vines of starlight grew from the dust, and for the first time in centuries, something sang. The galaxy had spent generations believing the elves were gone, that dragons were myth, that humans were too fragile to matter. But Lila had proven them wrong, not with weapons but with presence, with truth, with the simple act of being what they said could not exist, and she was not alone. Across the void, in hidden corners and forgotten systems, others began to wake. Some were like her, engineered, hidden, waiting. Others were survivors, old and scarred, who had kept the flame alive in secret. They felt the heart's call. They heard the song returning. The council would try to silence it again. They always would. Fear does not die easily, but this time the silence would not hold. Because Lila was moving, and where she went, light followed. Kale broke through the upper atmosphere, stars stretching into lines ahead. Ilara leaned forward, her voice barely a whisper over the wind. You are the bridge. Lila closed her eyes. The silver threads in them shimmered, then let them cross. And so they flew, not to war but to witness, not to conquer but to remind. The age of erasure was ending. The age of return had begun. and it started with a girl who caught light in her hands.